Hello, everyone. My name is Deo Campbell. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I am a recent 2020 graduate. I got my degree in psychology.
And hi, y'all. Thank you, Dale, for the introduction. My name is Sam. I'm going to be a third year this upcoming fall, and my major is public policy, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
And today we're going to be talking to y'all about healthy relationships and different aspects of healthy relationships and what really goes into it and what makes pretty much a healthy relationship healthy. And so first off, we do want to talk more about us and the CARE office. So what does CARE stand for? It stands for Campus Advocacy, Resources, and Education. We are a confidential resource on campus, and we are committed to ending sexual violence here at UCR. Some of the things that we provide are survivor support, direct advocacy, resources, prevention education programming related to issues of sexual assault, relationship violence, and stalking, and we provide that education to students, staff, faculty, and other UCR affiliates. And so we just have some expectations while y'all are watching this. Be respectful of others. You might be watching this with your other board members in your org, so be respectful of them while you are watching this, and also just be respectful of us. We are trying to make sure that y'all are receiving this information in the best way possible, and we would really appreciate if you would be able to participate and engage with the information that we are providing you. We know it's kind of a weird situation. This isn't really the norm of what we do, but we would just really appreciate if you all would be able to do that for us. We do want to make this a safe space, so please refrain from passing judgment amongst one another. Again, this is if you're watching this with another person. Also, feel free to step out if you need to. So while you're watching this video, at any point, if you feel like you need to pause it and step away and take care of yourself, please do so. That self-care is the most important thing that you can do. And also, we can connect you to the CARE office. If need be, we will have contact information available at this end of the presentation. Y'all can take pictures, you can write it down. Y'all are free to do whatever you would like.
So now we're going to be talking about healthy working relationships. So healthy relationships in professional, academic, or social settings allow people to feel supported, connected, and valued. These relationships respect boundaries and consent. This is important, especially for org training, because these are definitely tips that y'all would want to keep in mind. In the next few slides, we're going to be also talking about what unhealthy relationships and healthy relationships look like. Now we want to ask y'all, what are some signs of an unhealthy relationship? So if you'd like, you can pause the video now and think of some examples. If not, we're going to discuss some in the next slide. So we have recognizing red flags. The first point is does not agree to compromise. So your org might have someone that does not agree to compromise, and this definitely is a red flag because they do not take into consideration of other people's opinions or thoughts on certain situations. Next, doesn't respect your right to your own personal space. Although we are all in an org and y'all might be a team, everyone in that org is still their own individual person and deserve their own personal space. Next, someone might control time and conversation. This is also a red flag because it restricts other people from allowing them to express how they feel on certain topics or examples, or maybe figuring out what y'all want to do as a team. Next, tells you how to think or feel. Someone should not tell you how to think or feel because you are entitled to your own feelings and you should be able to express those wants and feelings, especially if y'all are trying to have a healthy relationship between you and another person or you and your whole team in general. Also, someone might ridicule or call someone else some names. This is not okay, especially in an org, because y'all want to have a safe space for everyone. Threatens you in any way or physically hurts you in any way. There should be no physical touch or threats within an org, or in any type of relationship, because we want healthy, and that is an example of a toxic relationship.
Okay, now that we've talked about some aspects of unhealthy relationships, we want to ask y'all, what are some things you think healthy relationships have? Feel free to pause this video and think of your own ideas. If not, we're going to continue on and talk about some aspects of healthy relationships. So, kind of just the general idea of some aspects of what healthy relationships include are non-threatening behavior, negotiation and fairness, respect, shared responsibility, trust and support, honesty and accountability, and economic partnership. These are just kind of some general ideas of what healthy relationships can include. They can also include various other things that maybe y'all thought of on your own. Those aren't the only aspects of a healthy relationship. Healthy relationships also include open communication to avoid assumptions, no pressure to feel as though you are obligated to do things. So, for example, if you decided that you wanted to hang out on a Saturday, and when Saturday rolls around, you no longer want to hang out, what you can do is simply be like, hey, I'm not really feeling it today, or maybe even saying, hey, I think I'm going to leave early. I just really am not in the mood to be hanging out today. You should never feel like you're being forced to do something in any sort of relationship. Also, another aspect healthy relationships include is the ability to communicate needs, wants, and feelings without feeling embarrassed or ashamed. We're all human. We all have needs, wants, and feelings, and we should be able to communicate those with one another without the other one putting us down. Also, respecting personal boundaries. It was touched upon earlier when Sam was talking about the various red flags, but making sure that you're being respectful of one another and everyone's own personal space is really important, especially because we're college students, we're involved in different orgs. Some people may even have jobs. Like, there's a lot that people might be doing in their daily life, and it's really important to just respect their boundaries when they set them. And then lastly, we have the ability to address problems and conflict without threats or fear of safety. Again, this was mentioned earlier when Sam was talking about it, but it's really important that when we talk about relationships, there are highs and lows in a relationship, and when you want to communicate to the other person some of the issues or some of the lows that may be going on in a relationship, you should be able to effectively talk to them without feeling like they're going to intimidate you.
Now we want to talk about consent. So although this topic might not be talked about a lot, it is definitely very important. And we want to normalize a conversation about this topic as well, especially within your setting. So consent is permission for something to happen or agreement to do something mutually. With sexual activity, it is an affirmative, unambiguous, conscious decision by each participant to engage in the sexual activity. So yes means yes. We try to stay away from saying no means no, because that puts blame on the person who was hurt rather than the person who hurt the other person. Next, the absence of physical resistance does not mean yes, and absence of a no does not mean yes. So for example, let's say I'm at a party and I want to dance with someone else. I can ask them, hey, do you want to dance? But I don't get an answer back. That does not mean that they want to dance. So I shouldn't force them to dance with me, or I shouldn't even try to dance with them. Because even though they didn't say no or they didn't say yes, that does not mean that it is a yes. And next, consent cannot be given when someone is incapacitated by drugs or alcohol. So if someone cannot answer who, what, when, where, why, then they are not able to give consent at that time. Coercion is not consent. So also, for example, let's say someone asks another person for $5 and that person willingly gives them $5, then that's fine. But let's say the person who asked for the $5 had a knife, that other person might have felt threatened, so they gave them the $5 out of coercion, not willingly. And lastly, consent can be withdrawn at any time.
Now we want to talk about some important definitions because there are various situations that someone might end up in, and we really want to make sure that y'all have an understanding of what those situations might be, and we really just want to make sure that everyone has a base level understanding of the different topics that we talk about. So first off, we have sexual violence, and sexual violence is when physical sexual activity is engaged without the consent of the other person or when someone is unable to consent to the activity. An example of this would be if you're in a situation where someone is touching you when you don't want to be touched.
So now we have relationship violence. That is physical, sexual, psychological, or emotional abuse within an intimate partner relationship. We want to keep in mind that regardless if the relationship was 3 years or 3 days, relationship violence can occur at any time. Also, during COVID-19, relationship violence has increased because people who are being hurt are in close quarters for longer amounts of time with the people who are hurting them.
So next we have stalking. So stalking is a pattern of repeated behavior that includes unwanted attention, contact, harassment, or other conduct towards a specific person that places them in reasonable fear of their own safety or the safety of others. A good mainstream media example of stalking would be if you've seen the show You on Netflix. The main character, Joe, he's an extreme example of what a stalker could be. If you haven't seen that show, some examples of stalking are physical or digital stalking. So physical stalking would be as if someone is showing up to your classes or even to the place where you lived repeatedly without you wanting them to be there. Or for example, with digital stalking, that would be someone repeatedly messaging you or calling you on your phone after you've told them to stop.
So invasion of privacy, that's taking photos or recordings or posting, sharing, or watching another person's sexual acts or nudity without their consent or in a situation where someone had a reasonable expectation of privacy. For example, let's say someone was in a relationship and they sent consensual nudes to the other person. Let's say they broke up and the person with the nudes shared those pictures with their friends or other people without the consent of the other person or of the person that sent the nudes. That is an example of an invasion of privacy because that person had reasonable expectations of privacy when sending those photos.
So now we kind of want to talk about bystander intervention because let's say you're maybe in a situation where one of those terms that we were talking about might be going on and you want to step up, you want to step in and help with the person. So what you would do is you can intervene, and we really want to help y'all be able to effectively intervene in those types of situations while feeling safe and confident that you can do that. So we would ask y'all, like, what are some of the reasons that prevent us from stepping in? Like, why are people maybe hesitant if they're in these situations? If you want, you can pause, think of some of the reasons why maybe you or other people haven't stepped in a situation, or what might in the future prevent you from stepping in. Feel free to pause, think about that. If not, we're going to go ahead and show y'all this real quick video of some previous UCR students talking about some of the reasons why maybe they didn't step in or why they think other people may not step in. Oops, 1 second.
I think one major reason for people not intervening is a fear of being wrong. They don't want to embarrass themselves for misreading the situation, and they don't want to look silly.
I think it's the fear of being wrong about your assumptions about what you think the reason is to intervene for.
I think it's really hard sometimes to call out your friends and the people you know, but even though you know that they're doing something wrong, and I think that's one of the reasons why people don't intervene.
Also might be the fact that they might not know what will happen if they do intervene.
Sometimes stepping in, people are hesitant to involve themselves in certain situations because it puts themselves at risk. They're unsure about their own personal safety.
Sometimes we assume that other people has already called for help and that you don't need to do anything because someone else has already done it. And I think that's also one of the ways in which it prevents people from intervening.
So now that we talked about bystander intervention, if you ever see something and want to say something, you can use one of these 4 tools to say something. So these are the 4 Ds. Hopefully everybody can say it with me, but it's direct, distract, delegate, and dedicate. Let's get to it. So the first one is direct. So that's approaching an individual to check on their level of consciousness and awareness of their situation. This might sound like, are you okay? Or do you want to leave? This is directly engaging in the situation that you see. So let's say you're at a party and you might see someone that looks a little uncomfortable. You directly go up to that person and ask them if they're okay. The next D is distract. So that's to draw attention away from a potentially dangerous situation. That might sound like, hey, I'm hungry, let's leave, or I'm getting some water, come with me. For example, let's say I see Dale at the hub and they kind of look a little uncomfortable with the person that they're with. I can go ask them, hey, I'm gonna go get a burger from the Habit, do you wanna come with me? And they can respond yes or no depending on what they're feeling at that moment.
And next, we have delegate. So that's asking someone else to check up on an individual who seems to be in a potentially dangerous situation. Some examples of what that would sound like is your friend okay? Or can you check up on that person on the couch? An example of when this would be useful would be, let's say you're at the library and you notice that there's 2 people sitting at a table together and one of them looks a little uncomfortable about the conversation that they're having. What you can do is you can maybe have the friend that you're studying with be like, hey, isn't that person in your class? Like, could you go check up on them and make sure they're okay? Maybe invite them to come over and study with us instead. That way, you're still able to step in and intervene, but maybe you're not the direct person to do it. This is really great when maybe you don't know the person, or even if you feel unsafe stepping into the situation, but you feel someone else would feel safe stepping in the situation. And next, we have dedicate. So that's checking in with someone after the situation occurs to make sure they're okay. So some examples of what that can sound like is, I saw what happened, are you all right? Or DMing someone like, hey, I heard what happened, is everything good? I'm here for you. We understand that sometimes there are situations where it's not safe for you to step in or for other people to step in. So there's really nothing you can do to like directly intervene, but it's really good to be able to provide that support for them after the fact as well. So it's just, if you're ever in that situation and you don't know what to do, you can still continue to help them afterwards.
So helping a friend, you might want to provide them with options and choices, but you should definitely avoid from telling them what to do. For example, you can tell that person, the care office is a confidential resource. You can go talk to an advocate if you'd like, instead of telling them you should go talk to an advocate at the care office. It's just allowing them to do what they feel at that moment. Next is listen to them and validate that their feelings are normal. Not everyone is going to feel the same way after what they've experienced. So whatever emotions come about at that time is totally valid, and it's just important to be there for them by listening to them. You should also avoid victim blaming questions and statements. So some of these questions and statements might sound like, what were you wearing? Or is there anything you did to provoke that person? Those are definitely questions you should not ask. And lastly, ask them what kind of support they would like or need from you. Again, this might vary from person to person, but someone might want food and another person might just want you to be there in person or want a hug as well.
And there are tons of options that you can provide for your friends if you're ever in that situation, or even just options to know just for yourself in the future if you ever need them. So first off, there are reporting options. We do have our Title IX office on campus, as well as our on-campus police department, which is UCPD, and then emergency assistance, which is 911. There are also confidential resources, so you don't have to report if you don't want to. There are always confidential resources that you can access. So for on-campus confidential resources, we have us here at the CARE office. So we have crisis intervention, we have reporting options if you would like to use those. There's safety planning, counseling referrals, help with restraining orders, accompaniment throughout the reporting process if you choose to report, and many other various resources that we provide for y'all. Also, there's the UCR Counseling and Psychological Services, also known as CAPS. That's another on-campus resource. And each UCR student gets 8 free sessions per year. That's regardless of what your insurance situation is. So whether or not you have USHIP, which is our on-campus insurance, you do get access to those 8 free sessions. There are also off-campus confidential resources, such as the Riverside Area Rape Crisis Center and ADV, also known as Alternatives to Domestic Violence. Those are all very close to campus. So if you're living on campus or near campus, they're not very far away, and they're off-campus resources as well if maybe you don't feel comfortable going to any of the resources that we have on campus. There are also other resources, the various different resource centers at Costo Hall, such as the LGBT Resource Center or the Women's Resource Center. There are also various other resource centers that you can access if you ever go to Costo Hall. I do know that they're providing online programs during this time, so definitely continue to check those out. Also, there's the Campus Safety Escort Service that operates out of the Women's Resource Center. And so what the Safety Escort Service provides is once the sun has set and it's dark out, students can call them up and say like, hey, I'm over at Orbach Library and I need to go to my car in lot 30. And they'll send someone over and walk with them so that they feel safe during that time.
Also, you should get involved. These are different programs that we have in the CARE office. We have Brothers and Sisters Against Violence. So this is specifically for the Greek community, where sororities and fraternities come together and try to think of ways to minimize sexual violence within their community. We also have SAVE, which stands for Sexual Assault and Violence Education. This group organizes prevention education on different topics that we talked about today through different conversations or programming. So also stay tuned for that. We're going to be having different programs throughout fall quarter virtually. And lastly, we have CVP. So this is specifically towards male-identified folk, but anybody can join this group, and they talk about topics such as toxic masculinity and sexual violence as well. You can also contact us. We have our main care, so that's our phone number on the screen, and then we have our email, so you can contact us on there. Or you can also contact Carla. She's our interim direct and advocate. That's her email and her phone number. Or you can also contact Rosanna for prevention. So let's say y'all would want us to present at an org meeting or anything, you can contact Rosanna for that, and we would be gladly to work with y'all. And lastly, you can learn more about what we talked about today at our website, care.ucr.edu. You can also follow us on social media to keep up with what we're doing at the time on Facebook and Instagram, and both of our @ are UCR Care. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Hope
thank
you
you.
have a wonderful school year.
Yes, thank you all so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed what we taught you, and we hope you have a great rest of your training. And as Sam said, have a great rest of your school year. Bye.